Hello friends! I am here to do a watercolor mindfulness video. I'm so excited for this one. It has been on my mind for weeks. And so what I want to do is I'm going to paint a landscape, a mountain landscape. I have a 9 by 12, 140 pound watercolor cold press paper. And I'm going to fold this in half. And because it's just for a mindfulness activity. If you like to paint big, by all means use a full sheet, a 9 by 12 full sheet, but I like to do them in halves, and that way I could probably make a card out of it and crop my favorite part. So now I have two, and I can paint almost two if I wanted to. And this mountain-ish, hill-ish landscape actually comes from my memory from being at different lakes throughout either in Iowa, or the one that I'm also thinking about is Bear Lake in Rocky Mountain National Park. So we're going to have like a lake, we're going to have some foreground, midground, and background. It's going to be a really fun little mindfulness thing, but it came from, the idea comes from like looking where you came from and putting it into an art form. So for me, I wanted to think about the adventures and or the achievements that I made over the past year. It's December, and I thought, you know, I made some pretty big mountains. I personally climbed some pretty amazing mountains this year. I graduated with my bachelor's, and I just wanted this to be a way to kind of share my achievement onto paper. And so that's where my mindfulness is coming from. The other side to that is maybe you're feeling like I'm still climbing that mountain. I felt that way for 4 years while I was being a stay-at-home mom and going to school, and I thought, am I ever going to get to that top? Am I ever going to get to the summit of my achievement? And I finally did. So if you're feeling like you're still part of it, maybe your mountain is going to be more like this. Mine is going to be in the distance. Like I saw my mountain and I'm looking at it from a distance now. Like I already climbed that mountain. I'm on to new and better things. So anyways, that's the plan. That's where my mindfulness is coming from. For this, I'm just using Alizarin Crimson, Yellow Ochre, and Ultramarine, my favorite primary colors. Alright, so because this is a memory and I really just wanted to kind of play, I'm going to have my mountain not in the middle, right? And I might actually have my peak more to the side. If I think about my thirds, here's my thirds. And just have a little mark, just so I have an idea of where I'm mapping out my landscape. Maybe I want my peak right here. And I always think that mountains are, it's going to go down like this a little bit. And then here is probably my horizon line. I like to get my horizon line as straight as possible so I don't move when I draw my straight line. You could also use a ruler if you wanted to, but I don't actually move my wrist at all. This is like a plein air, and you get the best that you can. But maybe this will be the start of the land. So I'm going to draw another line right here, and so this is in the background. And then I wanted just I wanted another like hill or valley or something like that. So there's a distance. And then I got my water, and I'm just going to make some rocks. I feel like this year was just kind of rocky. I'm ready for a new year to just kind of be part of it, just to be part of the fun. And so with my rocks, I try to keep them very loose and like rock-like. I don't want them to look like potatoes. And so I made them kind of like mini mountains, I guess is a word, but I don't want potato rocks. So there we go. There's my foreground, my midground, and then my background. And then I think I'm going to have I'm just going to draw in kind of where I want my cloud to be, and we're gonna just go with that. Okay, now, and it might be a very loose, I might have just this one cloud looming right here and having some sun sky coming this way, but for now I like it. I'm going to zoom in so you have a good... And now I think we're ready to actually get started. So while I am painting, I usually have some beautiful music on in the background. I want my mind to have a break. And so that's what I'm trying, that is my hope. I'm going to get some yellow ochre out. This is from Daniel Smith, but any yellow ochre will work. I'm going to do ultramarine blue. And I might actually clean my palette just a little bit. I want it to be as pure as possible. I just have paper towels handy for this reason. There's some moon glow. I'm going to leave my moon glow on. I think it's going to look really pretty. I don't, like, I'm not, like, I know what I like. And I know that moon glow is a really pretty pigment. So, yeah. All right. Now I can throw that away. Probably get another paper towel in a second. Anyways, all right. And then here's some beautiful ultramarine. This is again from Daniel Smith. Any watercolor, any ultramarine watercolor that you love, just use it. Okay, I am using, part of my mindfulness practice is that I'm using my favorite supplies. I don't want to use something that I don't love. So this is my new favorite brush. It's an Escoda Versatile, made in Barcelona. But anyways, it's like an oval brush, but it has a really nice tip to it, so I can get some really neat things going on. But I just want to get a nice wash through almost the whole paper. And so you'll see me paint. And I'm not taping down my paper because first off, I don't feel like I need to. It's 140 pound. And yes, it does curl. I'm okay with that. It kind of, I'm used to that curl. You just bend it back and it'll be fine. Anyways, and I like to see my watercolor paper move on the paper. And I'm not delicate about this part. In fact, when I really need to just have a mindfulness time, this is kind of fun. It's just fun to play with your materials, and I enjoy it. Okay, so I'm going to start with a nice ultramarine wash, and I'm going to add a teeny tiny little bit of this Alizarin Crimson just to give it more of a violet-y look to it. It's not going to make or break the Alizarin Crimson, but it does give it just a little bit more blue tint to it. And what I'm going to do is I'm painting the sky first. And I love how the Alizarin Crimson and the Ultramarine Blue will just play on the paper. And I'm going all the way down. In fact, I'm covering this whole sheet. But I don't want it to be, I want it to be I don't want it to be a flat wash. So that's why I'm just putting paint down. Wet unto wet. It's so much fun to do. I'm going to add a little bit more of that blue. I do have some of that green. I don't know if that green is actually showing up, but there, now we got a blue piece of paper. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to very, very gently, because it's still wet and I can do that, where I made that line, I'm just going to soak up some of that blue, and I'm going to put a little bit of some yellow ochre on. And this is going to kind of warm things up a little bit. It's not going to be too crazy. I don't want it to be, I just want it to be light. And I know that my yellow ochre can also go in here too. And I can be pretty liberal with it. I don't have to be super smart. I don't have to take my time. In fact, it's kind of just there. Now the sky is still wet. I really love painting landscapes. Landscapes for me bring me a lot of peace, and so why not bring it into my art? Okay, I think that's good. I feel like with watercolor you want it to be loose and you want it to be free. So we're going to leave the sky alone. There's not a whole lot that I can do until it dries a little bit. So while I am thinking about what the next step is, I could very much easily go in with a darker blue and a thicker, so I'm just doing a thicker wash. I'm getting this really pretty purple. And once you get a really nice purple, what mutes purple? Yellow ochre. So then I can take this yellow ochre and get this beautiful gray. And while it's still just a little bit wet, you can come back in here. And this is going to give it like that moody, cloudy look. I love using a porcelain palette because I can go back, like here's a little bit more yellow, here's a little bit more violet. And I can, somewhere in the middle of all of this is the right color. That's going to look really pretty when it's totally dry. All right, that looks good. Now we can go into our mountain. So with the same mixture, and I'm probably definitely going to need more alizarin. So pretty. Now I can make my darker mountain. Actually, what I'll do is I'm going to just start my mountain. If it's too dark, I can always, but this is why I love this brush, is I can get that point that I want. And mountains, I always thought mountains had like rigid points. They don't actually have rigid points, but maybe your mountain does, and that's okay. You know, like it's however you feel your mountain that you're climbing is, or the mountain that you did climb. Maybe you are really happy with how you handled certain things and you're just like, nope, that was a really tough mountain and it's an Everest. And Everest, in my opinion, has the, you know, a really pointy point, like the Tetons kind of. Anyways, our mountain is taking shape. There is one color block of mountains. We're not done yet, but we're at a good start. Okay, now we're going to work on the rocks. The rocks, I really like this purpley, this very purpley orangey color. Purple orange is they're complementary kind of, and I would like more. And so it takes some time to get things going. There, that's perfect. I think that's about right. I love that we can just get one or two colors and get it all perfect. I cannot decide if I want it to be more warm or if I want it to be cooler. It's getting there. It's pretty red. Sometimes I think rocks, my rocks either need to be warmer than the background, which it is. So we're going to add just a little bit more. All right. Same thing here. I'm really accentuating these rocks. And maybe your rocks are really small. That one's in the distance. That one's in the distance. That one's in the distance. I feel like whenever I climb mountains, It's not smooth sailing by any means. I'm lucky to get where I need to be, I guess. I don't know. All right, whatever's on my brush, I'm just gonna add some of that yellow ochre. I'm just gonna paint in, just to blend it in. It's just gonna, painters do this all the time. And to be fair, yeah, I like that so far. That's looking really, really lovely. Okay. All right, now when I painted this, when I think about rocks, I think about the texture of the rocks. So I have this brush, I just got it wet. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some water just on these rocks. It's going to dry. It's going to separate some of the pigment. And then we'll come back in and add some more texture. But this is just going to kind of give it some more texture. And if you see some puddles, clean up your puddles. But so far, I'm really loving how it's working. And the ultramarine has some really pretty granulation, and you could use some really pretty granulating pigments. But for now, I'm happy. I just want to get the puddles out of the way. We can always accentuate our rocks a little bit more. I'm just waiting for the sky to dry a little bit. I see it's pretty dry. So I need another little bit here, and I think I might even glaze this red a little bit more. So I'm going to clean up I really want some pure-ish red. So I'm going to clean up my palette a little bit. I don't want any gray. I don't want gray red. So I think the other key to vibrant watercolor is to continue to clean your palette so you don't get gray when you don't want it. And I feel like that's pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's better. And I will zoom out just a little bit so you can see my palette. There we go. Okay. But I'm loving this granulating pigment. Again, this is a memory. So it's just a memory. And I remember being at like Bear Lake or a lake by my house, which we're in Iowa, so we have hills, but we don't have mountains. So this would be a distant hill maybe. But Bear Lake and Rocky Mountain National Park, there are mountains probably. I probably could have made it bigger, but I'm okay with the way it is. It's my painting. I can do what I want, and I like how it is so far. All right, so I'm going to add a little bit of this this Alizarin Crimson with this beautiful ultramarine color. And I just want a red violet. And I'm going to go back in still, and I really want to, I want it to be almost like a sunset, or like there's a little bit of cad yellow on my palette, so I'm going to go ahead and just use it with the yellow ochre. I don't think it's going to actually change much. I might get that yellow right in here. I really want it to just blend beautifully. And I think I'll even just take it right down through the mountain. That's going to look lovely. And now I'm going to bleed out this edge, meaning that there's not really an edge to see. That looks better. And now, because I'm using this ultramarine and this red, but it's going to be a thicker consistency. That will help with this little luminous, this cloud. And I'm even going to bring it in there. It's all right that I get some I always like to have movement in my sky. You don't have to, but I think it helps kind of, once it dries, it really dries to make it look like a sky. And it's your painting, you're going to do what you want. But this is why I don't take my paper down, because I will just play with the watercolor that's already on, and it's gonna do its thing. It's gonna look really lovely. And I could always dull it down a little bit if I needed to, but I think it's gonna dry just the way I need it to. So we're gonna let it be just like that. I really love how this is turning out, and again, this is just from my memory. I have a shape in my mind and I'm just going for it. Okay, let's work on this. This needs to be a little bit darker, kind of like these rocks, so I'll probably have to use some yellow ochre. Ooh, I'm loving that gray. Woohoo! We're gonna just go with that, and we're gonna make a totally new dimension in our landscape, just like that. And again, with the horizon line, I'm not moving my wrist, I'm moving my arm. If you move your wrist, it's gonna be a different line, and that's not what you want. You want your arm to do you'll get a straighter line when you use your arm. Ask me how I know. All right, so at this point I am very tempted to get some Payne's Gray. I think I am, because I really want that to pop. So I'm going to come in with a little bit of Payne's Gray and I'll be right back. Anyways, I sometimes will use Payne's Gray when I want it to be dark, and I'll put it right next to my blue, and you'll probably not even notice it's there, but it will pop that mountain in the background, which is what I need. It is a very blue color, and I'm just going to use it pretty straight much out of the tube, except for I am going to add a little bit more of that Alizarin Crimson, and this will just kind of define. And I think a little bit, I probably will wish I hadn't done it, but I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to add a little bit of this red back into the rocks. I'm hoping that it'll just bleed in. But rocks are not gray or brown. They have lots of color to them. And the more I study rocks with my sons who love rocks, the more I realize just how beautiful the earth is. Even rocks are pretty. So this is just me having fun with the color. I'm just adding color. This is where the intuitive watercolor painting comes in. I just want to add a little bit, but there we go. I want those little rocks to be very dramatic, almost as dramatic as my sky. And my mountain, well, I climbed it, I did it, it's there, and I'm happy to see it from far away. Okay, so I'm waiting for this to dry, but I can add a little bit more shadow and more form to this mountain, even though it's far away. So I always want to I'm just going to add a little bit here and maybe here. And I'm going to take whatever grayish color I have. I don't want it to be too thick. So I'm just going to take whatever is really left on my palette. I got some warmth. So it's really just a gray. And it's whatever was left over on your palette. We're just going to sprinkle in a little bit there so it looks a bit more rigid, more mountainy-ish. I feel like that one can have like a little indent right there. And I always think that the horizon line, usually if you are plein air painting, you will see that the horizon line is either darker or lighter than the sky and the things around it. I can't actually tell, so I'm going to guess that my horizon line from past experience is a little bit darker at the bottom. Not by much, but a little bit. So if you like to paint landscapes, plein air, you'll learn a lot. Okay. Now at this stage, I am going to need a little bit more ultramarine because we still got to get some waves. I see the start of some waves, but I need a little bit more. Now I could go back in and make this a little bit darker even, but we're going to see what the water does. Okay, so to paint waves, I could try to reflect the sky. That is a choice. That's not the choice I'm going to make, but I am going to leave the white of the rocks alone. But I'm just going to add, this is again kind of color blocking, and wherever I see lines, like I saw a line there, I saw a line here, saw a line this way. This is already the watercolor doing, its job. I am just, now this is a clean brush. I'm going to smooth out all of those lines. And I'm going to just take my clean brush and I'm going to make one line for sure is going to be blurred. And this just gives a nice touch of what water could look like. So really it's just blending out the watercolor. If you see any harsh lines, now's the time to take care of it. And of course there's a million different ways to paint in watercolor. This is mine. And there's no wrong way as long as you like the outcome. So I do like the outcome, but I'm also a little bit more free-spirited, so a little bit of spontaneity can go a long way, and I will just watch it flow. And I really love how it's going, so I'm going to do one more right there and one more right there. Watercolor will only go where water is, and I want to feel peace. So my mountain scene is probably a little more peaceful than what it could have been, but that's okay. I like to paint how I feel or how I want to feel, so this is how I want to feel. All right, and other than that, I think it's about done. I do feel like once it's dried, I may go in with one more layer right here, but for now, I kind of like it. And I really love the sky, and the last thing that we could do is we could paint some birds flying, but it's still a little wet, so I'll come right back and paint those birds in for you. Yeah. All right, I see a couple things that I want to fix. Not a lot. Probably no one else would notice, but I will, so I'm going to fix them. There's a little spot right here that I'm not loving, so I'm going to clean that up a little bit. I'm just going to go all the way. Now that I cleaned it up, I'm just going to take my brush and go all the way through. That will help. And that's perfect. And then I need just a little bit of this blue. And what I want to do is I just want to do a nice wash. It's dry, so I don't have to spend a lot of time on it. And then I'm just going to blend in that so I don't get any green, which is not what my plan is. There we go. That looks better. And now I can go back in with a little bit of this violety, bluey-ish, gray-ish color. And I'm just going to go in and add just a little bit more, like get it darker in places, but make it look like water. And the best way I can describe is wherever it's dark, you're just making it darker and then you're blending out your lines. Because I don't necessarily, I see that sometimes water has those, like a distinct line or edge, but in this painting, I'm not feeling it, so we're not going to have a distinct line or edge. But this is going to just help accentuate what was already there. And because it's wet, it'll just bleed. And I think it's really pretty. And my brush was spent, but that's okay. I had some water on it, so it'll dampen up the paper. And let me just add some water, gentle, peaceful water. And I do want to leave a lot of white space. I think that helps kind of share that, you know, it's a peaceful, calmful lake. And I miss those warmer, sunshiny days, so I'm thinking about that as well. Okay, that's good. And I think I'm going to leave it alone, and I'm going to, if I add some birds, it's just going to be like right here. I think I could. So with the little bit of Payne's Gray and maybe a little bit of this Alizarin Crimson, I'm just going to add a couple birds. And I always, like, I don't want I feel like sometimes it can be squiggly lines. I don't know. But I kind of do a V, and I know I've been told not to do V's, but I personally don't mind it. And then one more that way. All right, that I think is good. Just a couple of birds. They look like they're flying in a V, and I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it done. I think this is a beautiful, peaceful river, or lake, mountain scene, and reflection time. All right. Did I get the distraction that I needed? Yes, I did get a distraction. I was thinking about my time that took me this year to accomplish my big accomplishment and graduating with a professional degree in social media marketing and graphic design. So I was thinking about that. I was also thinking about what an accomplishment that was, and I'm glad that my mountain that I climbed is in the distance and that I can look back and think what a beautiful thing it was to get my bachelor's degree. I also am thinking, what's next, right? What's my next big mountain? And it's just a wonderful thing. So yes, I had a wonderful distraction. My mind stopped going all over the place on all the things that needed to be done, and I just focused on the color and the composition, and it brought back memories of when I was at a lake in Colorado, Bear Lake in Colorado, but also that it brought me back to Iowa and the hills in Iowa. So I think this was a wonderful distraction. Did I make a breakthrough? My breakthrough was that I just enjoyed the painting. I can't say that I had a big mental breakthrough, but I do feel better than I did before, and that's half the battle. And am I going to change anything because of my art today? I'm going to remember to look at, it helped, this while painting helped me realize to see the bigger picture in all things. Sometimes I get too closed in on like a piece of something in my life. Maybe it's my kids, maybe it's, you know, my to-do list, and I don't look at the whole big picture. And so for me, painting a landscape helped me realize that like there's pieces to a landscape, just like there's pieces to my life, where we have to look at the bigger picture and look at the full story instead of just little bits of it. We can focus on little bits at a time, but for a beautiful piece or a beautiful life, we have to look at the bigger picture. So yes, I would say that I did find a way to change my thought process to look at more of the bigger picture. So anyways, I hope you find some time to paint and then to do a reflection. I think reflections are key to having a good mental health practice. And reflection, or check-in points, another word is check-in points, those help you become a happier you. Anyways, it's been awesome, and I will talk to you guys later. Keep painting and enjoy the process. I love you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.